But do you believe it takes away from the people's right to vote on who they want to represent them?
I do not believe it takes away from the people's right to vote on who they want. Actually, I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah. For a politician to stay in power for a long time, the people simply will vote for another person with kind of the same ideals as a thing. Just because one person is removed from the political system does not necessarily mean that their ideals are removed from the system, and that people will make sure that their beliefs are heard through whoever they decide to vote into office.
Well, let me go to another subject, and that is the advantages and disadvantages of a written constitution or an unwritten constitution.
Well, constitutionalism itself is the idea that the government be legally limited by set policies. And so I don't believe that a written constitution is necessary for constitutionalism to be present, as seen in the United Kingdom, where they don't have a written constitution because they haven't really had a revolution where they just had to have a set ideas instilled immediately. However, constitutionalism is present, as in 2005 they had a Constitutional Reform Act where they separated some judicial powers from the legislative branch and put those judicial powers into a separate judiciary branch, showing the limitations on the legislative branch and an increase in judicial powers.
And in 2009 in the United Kingdom, a Supreme Court was officially enacted, which in fact replaced the House of Lords Appellate Committee, and now it provides a check on the House of Commons, which is in charge of creating the laws in England. And this is not this is not specified in the Magna Carta. It's written in 1215. However, they have no written constitution. However, constitutionalism is being actively practiced in the United Kingdom.
And it's also worth noting that constitutionalism, having a written constitution does not necessarily lead to constitutionalism. Just a few weeks ago, Thailand enacted a state of emergency law, sea martial law, that the Prime Minister enacted in order to stop protests. But Thailand has a written constitution that protects the right to protest. And so just having a constitution say that the right to protest is necessary, is a standard right of the people, is not necessarily going to protect that right. And so constitutionalism is the idea that the Constitution will be followed if it is even written.
Let me go spell a little bit. What about the Founding Fathers? Why did they think we needed a written constitution? It's great, these out-of-country examples, but
Well, the founding fathers believed we needed a written constitution because what spurred our split from England was the fact that we were citizens of the United Kingdom and we weren't given rights, and therefore we wanted to specify our rights now as American citizens under the Constitution.
In Federalist Papers 51, Pugilists wrote that if angels were to govern, then there would not need to be restrictions on there would not need to be restrictions on the laws and power.
Okay, good, thank you. So now for some feedback. I really liked overall your initial opening statement. I just love that you brought so many concrete examples in, historical, contemporary, and also the examples you brought in question and answer period. Those were really good. I was just wanted to get back, but we always run out of time in question time. But back to your ideas, I think you could maybe think through a little bit more the direct democracy issue, because it seemed to me, if I understood you correctly, that what you were saying was a little contradictory. So on the one hand, that you don't really trust direct democracy and you agree with the founders and representative government, but then on the other hand, to the question of term limits, then you said, well, yes, the people have more say, right? And then you mentioned Tabor, and it seemed like you were sort of in favor of Tabor, like it was a good thing, if I understood correctly. So it was a little muddled for me, and it's not necessarily bad to have different opinions about something, but it was a little confusing to me. So that just might be one thing to think about in answering. But overall, like I said, I thought you did a great job, and I really appreciated all the different examples you brought in.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think you did a really good job with your presentation. I really liked some of the examples. The quote from Benjamin Franklin was great. I really liked how you put that together. Sam, I think one of the things that you did very well is when you realized that your argument isn't the best argument, you conceded it and said, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna go any further on that. And, you know, that's a smart thing to do, because I think this is a learning process, and I was really happy to see that all of you are thinking about your answers, and I agree with Christiana that one of the things you wanna do is think through on all of these different perspectives on representative versus direct democracy. You know, you brought up the Amendment 66 issue and how we were trying to get money for schools. You know, if you look at what Aristotle's concerns were with regard to direct democracy, it was a concern that the majority would then pilfer the rich minority and create problems, and ultimately that was one of the concerns that they had. Is that a similar situation that we see with direct democracy in Colorado in Amendment 66, that the majority can then determine through an income tax that people are going to pay for schools? And so I think there's some, if you look historically in the political philosophy, you're going to see some examples that are completely relevant today on policy issues that are being taken up through direct democracy that may have good or bad consequences. As to the issue of term limits, you know, there's that question: are we taking away the right of the people to vote on who they want to vote on to represent them when we do term limits? And are we limiting the knowledge and experience of people within the legislature that might be able to be in a better position through their understanding to make better decisions for us? I mean, that's one side of that argument that is rarely discussed, because it's now a while that we have term limits. But I thought and really appreciated all of your answers, your presentation. I thought you did a very good job.
Yeah, I thought it was a great presentation, and you did read the Federalist Papers, and the issue of term limits having been mentioned, go back and read in the, I think it's 34, 35, 36, 37, where it does talk about term limits, and the original Continental Congress did have them. But it does really limit people's ability to vote for who they want to represent them. I thought your examples were great. The Supreme Court references, the higher law, Tabor. Remember, it didn't pass unanimously. It passed by less than, what, 2%. So, you know, part of the people didn't get their say, yet it was written in such a way that it actually limits the ability of people to respond to their needs, to their representatives. Like I said, I thought you had good examples. I think that's one of the keys. And your eye contact was good. Obviously, your preparation on the whole effort was, your opening statement was good. And your use of quotations, always good, historical quotations. So,
Thank you.
good job.